Okay, my champions, this is module 6. It's the final module in this series, and it's called the Instant Authority Keys. Now, the Instant Authority Framework is what Ryan Deiss calls it, and these are my session takeaways from my notes. And this booklet you're going to get blank, and you're going to learn all about the growth ramp. This is what mine looked like, and very clever. It's done in a landscape form versus the portrait form. So you're going to get this book in a PDF format, and we'll put everything together. And I will get Jessica, our content manager, to get the transcripts to this video, and we can put those transcripts after they've been improved and enhanced. We can put them in a one file binder and pretty that up, and that'll be the certification, at least the version 1.0. But instant authority keys are very, very important. And the reason it's more than a framework for me is these are keys that opening up locked doors. When you have authority, you open up a locked door. You've heard my analogy, and if you haven't, every door is an objection. Every door is resistance, which is normal. And every door has a lock on it. And the only universal law is there are no universal laws, which means there's no universal key. And many people think that one key will open one door, right? Once you've made that key, but that key doesn't open the next door or the next or the next. You need to create a set of keys to open up all those doors. And once you have the key, it could be a story, right, to remove the objection that relates to the objection, or it could be a case study, which is a story, to handle the resistance and anticipate it. But that gives you instant authority, what people are saying about you, not so much what you are saying about yourself. So once you're given authority, then you can just about do anything. If Warren Buffett came to you and said, you got to find $1 million in 1 month, and I'm going to give you the investment of a lifetime, you're going to make 10% every single year until you die. So that's $100,000 a year, right? Would you find that $1 million in a month? I think you would. I think that you would really be motivated. I was looking for the word. You would be influenced or motivated. Why? Because of the level of authority Warren Buffett has. You don't even have to wonder. He says it, he finds you, you find the $1 million because of authority. Now, his authority hasn't been instant. It's come over many, many years. His first investment was Geico Insurance, and that's what I use for my car, and now Brianna's car. She got a new car. But the authority is so important, and the more authority you have, the less selling you need to do. So this is why when you teach this to someone else, don't look at authority as just being an author of a book or having stuff to sell or how-to courses. Or look at authority as not even being smart. Authority and being smart are not hand in hand, right? In fact, I know a lot of people who aren't very smart, but they have a lot of authority, right? And so I want you to look at authority as the master ring of all the keys, right? So you have multiple keys, and you have a master ring of these keys that open up these imaginary doors that are getting in the way. You got to find out what the doors are first. You know, what's the resistance? There's 5 to 9 of them typically, 7 plus or minus 2, right? So there's 5 to 9 major objections, and they're articulated in a very specific way from the client's point of view. So when you're teaching this to a business owner who's more successful than you are, right, you're going to have now new authority as their coach. Now, maybe they'd never hire you because maybe you don't have the skill to do what they need you to do, but they have you as a coach and they're more successful. Can you deal with that level of authority? Do you want that level of authority? Because I'm instantly giving it to you. And I'm warning you again and again, be prepared to coach people who are more successful than you. Now, if they're not more successful, then that's not very challenging, because then your head trash isn't working. You know, you have more authority, so therefore, you know, it's easier to coach them. And you know that they don't know what you're about to teach them with these business concepts I've been teaching you in 6 modules plus an onboarding, right? So as a result, it's easier. But if you have someone who has more authority than you do in the marketplace, that is a challenge for you as a coach. And that's going to happen again and again. So be prepared for it. Just because you've gone through these modules and just because you've studied them doesn't guarantee getting certified, which is not me, just having a magic wand. It's going to mean an examination, possibly a few. It's going to mean role play and study. It's going to mean coaching each other, right? It's going to mean going through this process again, because this is the first time you've gone through. You're not even at the literacy point yet. So I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm telling you, authority can come instantly if you plan it. And this is a tool and a framework that teaches you how to do it. So module 6, let's dive in. The instant authority keys of guerrilla business mentoring. All right. So what is the authority keys model about? What's it all about? Well, you have these 5 different questions to answer. And if you answer one of them, you could dominate a niche. If you answer all of them and you really answer them genuinely and authentically, because you have to do some research to answer these questions, you have to think about it critically, then those doors all open for you. And the answers are the keys to open up those doors. There's 5. Okay, we'll get to them. There's 5. The important part here is when you're coaching someone, you don't have to start with module 1. I don't even know how we're going to build the curriculum yet for the guerrilla business, right? What I know is this is going to be one of the elements in it because it's in a module, but module 6 could be the first thing we do. So we'll see. Growth ramp is how we started, but we don't necessarily have to start that way. Next will come the curriculum. Now go back, the curriculum for coaching. You have the curriculum for we'll call it the certification, which you paid for, but then there's a curriculum for the coaching. Now you see the content pyramid, you see the arrow going up, you see that this is at the top. And the reason it's at the top is because, it's goes back to Egyptian days. It's kind of like the all-seeing eye, like on a dollar bill, right? It's at the very top, and you get to see with authority, the valleys on the top of a pyramid, right? So that's why this is the final module, but you'll see it comes to a point. This is how you write curriculum. And if you go back and you look at all the lessons, I'm covering every lesson in these 6 modules, right? So I'm covering all the questions in those lessons in between. And you're going to be covering them as you're coaching. But the lessons are what, why, how, what if, and what's an obstacle that gets in the way, right? Those are learning styles, and there's always a roadblock or an obstacle. So go back to the curriculum and see how it played out, because I followed it. And I think that all of you can write curriculum, not just Michelle, but all of you can do it in the way that I've taught you. So there's really been 2 classes, how to write a curriculum and watching it unfold, version 1, and then how to coach with business concepts you probably have never heard of before, but they're great planning tools, planning to win. So that's what the authority keys are in the model, are the 5 questions to get answered, and we'll go over them. The answer ultimately for the authority keys is duplicable. That's a word. Duplicatable is not a word. Duplicable steps to be the preferred referred business in the world. What does preferred mean? That means people are taking preference over someone else in your favor. What does referred mean? That means that you're getting a client who is referred to you. Now, this is what you're going to be teaching. They want to be the preferred referred person or company in the world, in their niche, right? And it's duplicable. So these steps I'm going to teach you are duplicable, means you can duplicate them again and again like a cookie cutter. The first time will seem awkward, like anything, but as you become more literate and then fluent, hopefully you master it over your lifetime. This is a great way for a company to dominate. It's a fabulous training and growth tool for any business, starting with yours. So here's a key point. Getting instant authority is your fast way to dominate a business, like Amazon does, like Apple does, like Google does. it can get you in trouble too. You know, absolute power corrupts, right? But domination is what you want. You don't want any competitor. You want to be twice as big as your next competitor. You probably don't even know who your competitor is. You probably haven't done competitive analysis of who you want to be in the marketplace. Who is just like you doing what you do, but is doing it much grander with greater authority. Those are people you want to model. That's what I do. So I look at the people that I pay money to are those people who have more authority than I do. They could have been my students. Many of them are actually. In fact, almost all of them are. But you look at who has more authority and then watch what they're doing because they have found the keys. You haven't. When's the last time you've done that? I don't recall ever having that conversation with any one of the coaches. You know, so prepare for that because I'm going to ask you next time we talk. This is for your own business. All right. Another key point. Frameworks are, this is a framework. Frameworks are like locked doors that require keys to open. And that's what I said. These are 5 major doors that you got to go through. Only 5 here, right? But these are giant doors with hinges, little hinges, right? Small hinges swing big doors. These are giant doors that require a keysmith to be very good so that it fits and very smoothly opens the door, okay? The question is, why is the authority key? I'm calling it the authority keys. It's a framework, but that are the actual keys that open the door. Why is that model instant? How can you say instant? Well, if you answer the 5 questions, which we'll go into detail, because that's the how. We've gone over what and why. Now we go to the how. But before we do, if you can complete the answers, which are actual keys that open those doors, right, which is resistance, roadblock, normalized obstruction, you know, of movement. If you can answer those 5 questions properly, and you can assist your client to do that, the client I give you, the GBO business, then they're going to have instant authority. When's the last time you saw a commercial for Amazon? When's the last time you went to Amazon not seeing a commercial? I went today in the morning. Why is that? Because they have instant authority, as does Apple. Now, as does Google. I mean, when's the last time you used DuckDuckGo.com? What? There's DuckDuckGo. It's another search engine. A lot of people are using that now. They're moving away from Google because for many reasons, Google's results in politics is showing and proving to be biased, right? And without getting into any conspiracy theories, the Google results are different than DuckDuckGo results, right? If you type in certain keywords. So people are using DuckDuckGo to move away from Google because they are the authority, right? Because they're the ones who are the most used search engine, right? And so if you look at DuckDuckGo's authority, they don't have the same level as Google does. And both names are kind of weird, right? Google and DuckDuckGo. It's like they're both weird names, but one has more authority than the other. I still use Google, right? Now, if the keys that you're about to learn, right? If you do one of them well, okay, it may be enough. If you do 2 well, you're going to dominate. If you do 3, you will own the category of the business, right? In the business industry category they're in, you'll own it. If you do 4 well, you'll have a cult, a business cult, right? Like Harley Davidson does at least 4 of these things well. Harley Davidson has people put tattoos, Harley Davidson, on their body. I don't see an Apple tattoo or a Google tattoo. This is a brand. And you have people tattooing and putting ink on their skin for life with a brand name, Harley Davidson. That's a cult. And then if you do 5 well, all 5 for 5, you will dominate the world, right? And the cults that have dominated the world have done all 5 well. The religions, the spiritual traditions, they dominate the world. The countries who have done, the sovereign nations that have done all five well, dominate the world, right? There's a reason why the U.S. is more powerful than the United Kingdom, which was England. We came from there, but there's a reason why they're more powerful, because the country, as a sovereign nation, brands itself better than England did. And plus, we have the advantages of a lot more land and diverse people within a sovereign nation, right? And so, we're not part of the European Union. So we're branding. There's a lot of branding that goes on even with a nation. And when you stop doing that, and when you have an EU, which doesn't have separate, nations anymore, right? And, for whatever reason, if you believe in the EU, people are trying to move away from it, England for one. But then you stop branding each nation as a nation, and it just becomes Europe. And then you lose the qualities of going to Italy and going to France. And, if you go to London, it doesn't look like London anymore, right? The diversity of the people, you see very few English now. When I go there, I can't believe it. Like, wow, what happened? So if a country is branded well, like Poland is very well branded, right? Poland is really well branded. It's not part of, this other union, which is watering down the sovereign nation brand. So even nations can have an authority framework where they have more authority. If they don't open their borders to anybody and let the people come in, then they maintain their culture rather than mixing it up. It's a visit instead of staying there, and you have multiple different cultures, right? And the countries that haven't opened borders have maintained their brand a lot better. So when you go to Poland, you see Polish people, and they're beautiful people. When Sandra and I first landed there, I go, wow, everyone here is good looking. Like, what? This is amazing, right? So I didn't know that until I went, and I loved the history there. And Poland is branded differently because they're maintaining one of the keys better than other countries, right? And they don't have euro. They have their own monetary unit. And there's a few other nations like that, but Europe is a really good example of what bad branding can do, because there's a lot of political chaos going on there right now because they didn't maintain their authority. You may be in one of those countries. They didn't maintain their authority. And so you'll see with these 5 questions, if I've set it up properly, a nation is like a business, and then a business is like a human being. If you maintain your authority and you're clear on these 5 keys, there are probably more, but these 5 really work, and you'll see what I mean. I'm not going to disappoint you. Once you get good at this alone can be all a business needs, is doing this thing. Remember this card, okay? The card I'm holding says, if you do one of them done well, that may be enough. 2 of them done well, you're going to dominate. So that's what you tell your client. They start getting excited. If you do 3 well, 3 done well, then you own the category. 4 done well, you start a business cult, and then 5 done well, you dominate the world. Here we go. How to do it. The authority framework. Okay, the 5 locked doors to access authority, right? So there are 5 doors that are locked, and now you got to access authority. Here are the 5 steps, okay? And you have the template, and I'm going to go in sequence of where to start. Now, in my book, when I'm doing the authority, this is the before and after matrix that I did. You remember that? We did that a while back in our modules. When this whole thing comes together, it's going to be so much fun. Here's the value journey, the customer value journey. They call it the value journey canvas. That's mine that I did, and that's just one version. And then for the instant authority Here are the steps. We start in the middle. There's 1, then there is 2, and then there's 3 down here, 4 up here, and 5. Okay, and I'm going to go over each one. This is the one I did. Okay, so everything I'm asking you to do, I've already done. And that is always the case. I hope you know that. So the 5 steps, here we go. The 5 steps, and of this framework, they're called keys in my language. So the first thing is, what is the core belief of my company? Okay, these are observations to fuel the mission. This is not the mission. It's not the mission of the company. This is what is the fuel. What's the gas, the petrol that is going to accelerate that mission? And those are your beliefs. All right. So what do I mean by a belief? All right. So in business and in marketing, what commonly is said amongst marketers, and I've been one for over 30 years, is the best product shouldn't win. The best marketing should win. That's a belief. And it's true. Many times there's crappy products that win because of great marketing. How many times have you been disappointed in a training or a seminar because people didn't really put the time and effort, behind it? I'm recording this because I set an intention, and then that turned into a promise. And I'm recording this 3 hours before I leave for a flight, and I'm going to be away for 6 weeks in Australia, and I still have some stuff to pack. But I came in my office, so you get that background, and I'm delivering this because that's what I promised, because I believe that having your back, having my coach's back, is more important than having my students' back. I believe in my mentors and coaches more than I do with my students, even though the coaches cost me money and the students pay me money. Why is that? Because if I take care of the coaches or the mentors, they'll take care of the students, right? So I bend over backwards for you, and I make things affordable for you, and I give you as much opportunities I possibly can. I overpay some of you, right? Some of you have never done coaching. You know who you are. You're given the opportunity, the student, and I'm paying you as if you went through a certification. I mean, think about that. I don't know anyone else who does that. Why? Because my core belief is I believe in my mentors more than my students. I want them to win first and then my student, right? Now, I don't know if you take some of this stuff for granted. I don't care if you do, but you would not have the opportunity to learn any of this for what you paid. Even though it's a big commitment, even though you're committed, even though you know it doesn't guarantee being a mentor, but I've given you that opportunity because I believe in that. I believe in giving the person who normally doesn't have the opportunity an opportunity to do it. And that goes for my core team as well. With Sandra and with Leo and with everyone who's come through and even left, I believe in that. That's a core belief, right? I believe that the team with the most talent shouldn't win. The team who gets along the best with each other should win. I believe in that. So your core belief will drive a mission. I don't know what you believe, but it's time to think about it. Here's what Ryan Dice believes. He says the best product offer should win. And that's what digital marketer is about. The best product should win. Not the best marketing, the best product should win. So when he puts together a certification or a product or what you're learning now, largely what I've learned from him, who used to be one of my students, I had the best product. It was called Marketing with Postcards. I happen to believe this. The best product should win. I believe I do the best curriculum. And you can repeat that. I believe that in my heart. I don't think anybody can do curriculum like I can. That's what I believe. That's not arrogance. I believe that's the truth. And you can put with Tony Robbins, anybody. I won't mention other names. Some of them are partners. I believe no one delivers content like I do. So I go all in to do. Who does this stuff with the cards? Who do you know? I go all in. Who gives you the curriculum pyramid? Nobody. Because I believe in you more than I believe in the students. That's a core belief. So once you know what your core belief is, and you maybe haven't even thought about it, then that fuels your mission, and they better be connected. All right. Here's another core belief. This one comes from Sir Richard Branson. Employees come before customers. Well, that's kind of my belief, right? Let's say you're an employee of mine. You're a coach, but if you're employed by me, you would come before my customer. The customer is not always right, right? The employee is always right. The team member is always right in public. And then I go after them privately. You may have been at the receiving end of that, right? I'm sure most of you have. Why? Because I have so much belief in you. And when you do things that are not smart and waste my time, then I get upset about it and probably could handle it better. Like, what happened? What should have happened? How can I make it right? But I'm thinking, oh my God, right? Now, if you've been on the other end of that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the reason you get that response is because of the level of opportunity and access you've gotten. If I hear I didn't want to bother you, I go crazy. Who is more accessible than me? Forget how busy you think I am. If you have something that's going to waste my time later on and waste 3 other people's time just because you thought I was too busy, look what you're doing. You're screwing things up. I'm not talking to anyone in particular, although it's happened. But if you say, I didn't reach out to you because you were too busy, I will not have patience because I am busy. But what right do you have not to reach out and then make it a problem of mine later on? Because I'm going to get on and we have to now talk about it because you didn't think, you didn't want to bother me, right? That's ridiculous. And I'm taunting your thought process, if that's the case, because I'm the most accessible person in my level of authority of anyone I know. Why? Because you come first, not my students. I'm not available to my students, not the way I am to you. I don't give them the opportunity I give to you. There are people watching right now that have gone to Wizard Academy, which is reserved for the highest of high authority. I'm the dumbest person in the room. And there are people watching right now that got to go there, right? Why? Because I want to give you that opportunity because that's one of my beliefs. If you have opportunity, you take advantage of it, then you will ascend a lot higher. I wasn't given that. I had to claw my way up utilizing content. I believe content is king, engagement is the queen, and the queen rules the house. Now, if you lose your queen, okay, it's not the end of the game. If you lose your king, it is the end of the game. So content is king, the content, but it's the engagement of that content that's queen. I got that from Mari Smith at a T. Harv Eker event, and I was in a panel with her. And when I heard that, I said, Mari, thank you. I have my new belief. Content is king, engagement is queen, and it's the queen who rules the house. It is much better coming out of Mari's mouth than mine. Here's another example. Elon Musk, his belief about the world. Do you know what his belief is? His belief about the world, this is his core belief, is that we're going to blow each other up. So we got to live on Mars. I got to get to Mars. I got to find a way to get to Mars because we're going to kill each other. Our civilization is not going to last. That's his core belief. And if you read his books, you'll see that. So that's what's fueling the mission to Mars, that core belief. So when you have that belief, that's the fuel and the petrol to drive your mission becomes easy. You know, my greatest frustration is when my belief gets in the way of my mission. If I believe, one of my beliefs is, coaches come before customers, right? And if a coach is about to do something stupid that they've never done before, but they're going to test it, and they haven't bothered to ask me my opinion because they didn't want to bother me on WhatsApp or Skype or even on my mobile number, which some of you have, right? Or email, which I think all of you have, right? Or Facebook or whatever. That is the most frustrating thing in the world when I'm saying, yes, I'm accessible. I'm not going to give free consulting all the time access, but when you have a client that has a unique problem and you want to get my opinion, of course I'm accessible because you come before that client. Coach comes before client and customer. So now that you know that belief, you better reach out to me when you have a client problem, because there's no other coach that's going to have more experience than me. No one's going to have as much authority as me, right? You're here because of me. So if the belief is not fortified by everyone else, then it becomes really frustrating. Then I don't want to have that belief anymore. Like, hey, here's what I believe and here's what this means. Our mission is to get the word out to people who would have never gotten access to this at the cost, right? What's going to fuel that? You come first, then comes the client. To me, for you, the client could come first. I don't have to come first, but that's my belief. And so if you are behaving where you don't reach out when you have a genuine problem, then you are not believing that my belief is that you come first. Do you understand? That's why it's so frustrating, because it's at the core value, core belief level, right? And you can see how that can drive your mission. We're not a well-oiled machine. The wheels constantly come off the bus with us, right? Why? Because of my inability to lead. And I'm going to work on that, and that's all I'm focused on, and that's all I've been brushing up on. To be more candid, to not assume that people have personal initiative, to keep following up and know that people will backslide. They behave a certain way and then they come back to the old way, right? And to understand that it's really hard to have a virtual company because there's no, there's no water cooler. There's no one place for people to come into, and doing it artificially through virtual huddles and Zoom chats and things like that is easy, because we all live in different parts of the world. So I have to get better at that and not assume that people are like me and I'm going to do it. Like meeting a deadline and renegotiating it, right? I turned it an intention into a commitment, and it's the last thing I should be doing right now is recording this, right? And I'll probably record another one because this is version 1. I'll probably will do the whole thing again because I'll know how to teach it better when I look back. So I'm not literate yet in teaching this. So certainly you're not. So we're not going to start teaching it until we're all at a level of literacy and we're tested for it. But I shouldn't be doing this right now. I should be resting before a very long trip and spending time with Minnie, because I'm not going to see her for 6 weeks. But I'm doing this. Why? Because of my belief. Because you come first. The coach comes first, then the client. I would never do this for a client, ever. You're not my client. You're a student and a coach. That's why you're watching this, okay? So did I get it with beliefs? Okay? That's how important it is. Now, once you have a belief, it's not enough. After the core belief, number 2, you need a step-by-step plan. Step by step. How to convert that belief into reality. Elon Musk, build rockets that blow up, eventually we'll get to the moon, right? Let's move away from fossil fuels. Tesla automobile, which Sandra now has one. She's going to drive a Tesla, right? So the core belief is driving the mission, right? Have a unifying bank that is online. PayPal. It's all Elon Musk, right? So I believe that, let's say I'm Steve Jobs. I believe that you could have 1,000 songs in your pocket. You don't have to worry about this Walkman thing, right? I'm going to replace, I'm not going to improve this thing. I'm going to replace it with something else, the iPod, right? So the belief drives the mission. What do you believe? Be prepared. Think about it. If you haven't given that thought, then you're not giving thought to your business or your life. What are your core beliefs? What are non-negotiable beliefs that you have? If violated, then game is over, right? What do you believe? Well, in business, see if you can come up with one and see what other people's believe. Like Richard Branson, employees are more important than the customers. And I'm similar. The coaches are more important than the clients. If you take care of the coaches, they'll take care of the clients. Do you see the level of, I probably have more belief in you than you have in yourself. So I want you to act like it so you can ascend a lot faster, because you're going to have head trash. You're going to have locked doors that won't get there, but it starts with beliefs. Then the step-by-step plan is the second piece. And this is all on the template. This is the number 2 thing. You convert the beliefs into concrete and actionable steps in the plan, right? So convert the beliefs into concrete, keyword, and actionable plan. It's got to be concrete. You can't have it ethereal. You can picture it, you know? It's graphical. There's a flow chart. It's concrete and it's actionable. You can action. All right. So let's take a look at some concrete action steps. We'll start with the game of life and the 10 commandments. As the story goes, Moses goes up a mountain, comes back with 2 clay, it's close enough to concrete, tablets, scribed with written Hebrew, right? Now, with the 10 commandments, what are the beliefs? Thou shalt not, right? That's a great way to have a belief. I will never put my clients before my coaches, right? I'll fire a client before I fire a coach. And some of you have been in that situation where I should have fired you, but I fired the client instead, right? Why? Because of my core belief, right? And I know you have my back. I know you do. And you think I'm not talking to anyone in particular. I'm talking to you. I know you have my back. That's why you're here. Because the level of patience and time and energy this takes is really difficult even to do it for my own children. It's just exhausting to do it with the other stuff. Because this doesn't make me money. This is like planting seeds and the harvest is not going to be for a while, right? So that's how you know. And that's how you know. And I know you got my back. It's got to be reciprocal. So the 10 commandments are thou shalt not. That's a really, really good core belief system. There's 10 of them. And you can look them up if you forgot or if you haven't studied them. Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Okay, Dave Ramsey has a belief. He believes that debt is bad. Anything that puts you in debt of any kind, he's at the extreme. Debt is bad. So look up his step-by-step plan that allows you the vehicle that's concrete and actionable, right? 7 baby steps. Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. And that's all about debt. What's his belief? No one should have any debt of any kind. Pay off your credit cards every month. And you should not have a credit line. Debt is bad. Okay, I do believe debt is bad, but I don't believe you should have 0 debt. Because if I came up short and I can't cover my payroll on my team, okay, I'm not going to pull from my savings to pay the team. I'm going to pull from the credit line and then pay it back at a later date. Now, if I don't have a way of paying that debt off, of course debt is bad. But debt by itself isn't bad. It's a great vehicle. It's been abused over the years. But what's bad is my inability to pay off the debt. And that's what's bad. So I don't believe in Dave Ramsey's core belief, but he believes in it, right? And even though we disagree, I'll be agreeable. At least I know where he stands. So his step-by-step plan, which is the second part of this, the second key, is the 7 baby steps. And you go to Google, you can look that up. All right. What about upsets? Upsets. What are the steps for upset? Well, Alex's 3 questions to diffuse an upset. Diffuse means to get rid of, like diffusing a bomb, right? Defusing it, taking the fuse off, right? That's where that comes from. All right. So I believe that there are 3 types of upsets. That's my core belief. There's an upset that's caused through miscommunication. There's an upset that's caused through unmet expectation. And there's an upset through misguided intention. Misguided intention means that you didn't reach out to me and then you worked with the client without knowing what to do. And now this whole thing blew up. That's a misguided intention, right? When you have access to me to ask a question. Ever since I had a minor meltdown about it, I've had more of you contacting me, and I usually get back to you, not within a day, within hours, right, of seeing it. So you can't always do that. But if I believe in 3 upsets, right, and they are miscommunication, unmet expectation, and misguided intention. And you can have the upset be about all three, maybe two of the three, or just one of the three, right? So miscommunication is, I said October 25th, 2019, not 2018. Miscommunication is I didn't write down the year, so that was my deadline. You thought I said 2018. I'm making that up, but that's what a miscommunication would be. It was missed because I didn't complete the communication, right? I've had miscommunication with how to renegotiate an agreement. So now I've been clear with my communication because I just assume everyone is like me. Like all I can think about is that agreement, right? So if you have an agreement that's 1 week old, right? Then the renegotiation time is 24 hours. That means you want to renegotiate or unmake the agreement. If you keep it, then you do it by the deadline. But you got 1 day to renegotiate, 24 hours. If it's a 1 week agreement, because that's 1/7 of the time. And you would know that you're not going to make it, right? Now, if it's a 2 week agreement, then it's a 48-hour renegotiation period. Why? Because I want to know you're thinking about it. And believe me, I'll renegotiate as well. If it's a 3 week agreement, 21 days, then it's a 3-day renegotiation period. And if it's a 4 week agreement, it's a 4-day. Now, if it's a 5 week agreement, which it could be, then I may keep it to 4 days. I don't know. But now I'm a lot clearer about how to renegotiate, and I miscommunicated. I just assumed everyone is like me, and when I make an agreement, that's all I'm thinking about. And if there's an agreement for 6 weeks and it's renegotiated on the day before, well, that person, and you know who you are, and I'm talking about Michelle for a curriculum for Zero Limits Mastery, who she's done a fabulous job on. So she's feeling under the weather, she's sick, and she knows she's not going to make the agreement, so she's renegotiating, right? I read it the next day. Actually, I read it a few days later because it landed on a weekend. I asked her many times, are we going to make the deadline? She said, yes, yes, yes. And then she gets sick and something happens, right, with personal. And so she's renegotiating as we agreed. But she's doing it the day before. I can't go to Michelle and say, that's not cool. Now, I kind of said why it's not cool, so she gets it, but I can't do a genuine reprimand because I miscommunicated. And now that taught me how to get even more precise in the communication, more precise with the steps, because I believe an agreement should be kept, unmade, or renegotiated. And I believe that if you're going to renegotiate, then you got 1 day, if it's a week, 2 days, 2 weeks, 3 days, 3 weeks before, right? 4 days if it's 4 weeks. And we'll see what happens after a 5 week, etc. Because the longer the time, the more you know whether or not you're going to make it, right? But if you're what's called cramming like they do in school and you wait till the night before the exam, you're going to make mistakes and you are not serving me. And if I don't feel served, you don't come first. And typically people who don't come first aren't around anymore, because they're overcommitted. I let them go. We have a conversation. I never screw with their income. Like they know what they're going to get paid. We set a date and then gone. Overcommitment is not a good thing because I believe overcommitment makes you undercommitted to what should have priority and opportunity and growth. So let's go to the 3 questions. Now that you got some belief structure behind it, what are the 3 questions, which are the steps, the concrete steps that you can do when someone's upset? Okay. Well, the 3 questions are what happened? So someone's upset in your life. It could be a family member. It could be me. It could be anybody. But someone's upset. Then you have the mindset. You have the resourcefulness, the mindfulness, they call it these days, right? You say, what happened? And then just let them rant and ask them if there's more. And then the second question is, what should have happened? Now, you know this, but do you do it? And what should have happened is their vision of how it should have gone. And you're wondering, okay, is that miscommunication? Is that misguided intention? Or is that unmet expectation? Is it all 3? Yeah, that's what you're thinking. during this time. So there's the outer game, and then there's the inner game that's happening. Are you with me? You're tracking, right? So what happened? What should have happened? And then the third question is, how can we make it right? I used to say, how can I make it right? But that's not fair, because many times I had very little to do with it. It's their projection. So I say we to include them. And I found that to feel a lot better for me. So how can we make it right? So what happened? What should have happened? How can we make it right? So you have an upset client. Well, rather than judging them, and nothing to me, nothing is more irritating when someone says, I know what you're thinking. No, you don't. You don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm thinking half the time. How can you know? You know, you have these mind reader people. Sometimes they can be a parent or they can be a child. You know, Gabriel tells me, I know what you're thinking, Dad. And he doesn't. He thinks certain things that make me upset don't make me upset. Like calling his grandmother when his grandmother, you know, has just had surgery. He thinks I'm angry with him. I said, no, I want to make sure that you're doing it, you know, and he'll assume things. He'll project. Well, he's 18 right now. So the I know what you're thinking part, I used to get that from Carol, my mom. That assumption's terrible, right? So rather than doing that privately, because you probably do it every single day, and judging, I have people very close to me that do this routinely. Just, it's upbringing. So rather than doing that, is just think you know the source of the upset. And even if the person is unreliable or they're a flake or whatever judgment you've had, whatever prejudice, prejudgment you've had, then for just a minute, move away from that. High intention, low attachment to your judgment, and say, what happened? What should have happened? How can we make it right? Okay? Now, if you believe in preserving a relationship, then you will ask those three questions, and those are my 3 steps on how to do it. Like Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, right? So that's about upsets. The other one was about debt. How about life? Well, that's the 10 commandments, right? The 10 commandments. So those are topics, right? But it's a brand. You know, the game of life, that's your life. That's a brand. Debt. Well, that's a concept. It's a brand. And so Dave Ramsey has built a whole very successful business around that, right? And given steps on how to avoid it. I believe I've built a great business, and with deep dives, we teach it all the time. Teach all your people the 3 questions. Teach all your people the 3 types of upsets. Teach all your people the 3 ways to handle agreements. I have a lot of 3s, right? Why? Because if everyone is doing that, now you have a culture where you can absolutely, positively predict what's going to happen. You become more predictable. You have more authority as a company. So, for example, in the case of Michelle, she already knows this. We talked about it. But I can't review the curriculum because I didn't anticipate to be renegotiating that. Right? I thought it was going to be done. So I was prepared to review it the day of or the day after the agreed to agreement. And because that didn't happen, I put my time aside to do that. So she didn't get, you know, Michelle, you're watching, you're not being reprimanded right now, but you know what I told you. Said, I can't review it because I have a bunch of other stuff like this. So I can't review it. I can't even begin to review it. Now I can look at it, but that's not a review, right? I got to put aside some critical thinking time. Why? Because I know how to do curriculum better than Michelle. Why? Because I've made more mistakes and I'm teaching her how to do it. That's her big opportunity, right? To apply in other areas of her life. So why? Because she comes, she comes before the client. So you see, the core belief is where you start. Now, I know you've heard of these things, but not in this way. So just because you've heard them doesn't make them any less important. They're really important. I'm spending a lot of time and giving you a lot of analogy on it because I want you to do the same for your life and for your business. Okay? So that's the second step, is create these steps that are concrete and actionable. Those 3 questions are concrete and they're actionable, and upsets are happening all the time because of one of 3 reasons, right? What do you believe? I don't know if you believe the same thing, but it's miscommunication, unmet expectation, or misguided intention. Here we go. The third key is maintain absolutes. Tell them what they can't do. Absolutes. When you speak in absolutes, like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, he is the king of absolutes. Just look at some of his work, right? Everything is the biggest, the oldest, the best, the this, the that, right? You know where this guy stands. Now, what's an absolute? I like to start with can't. And what's my evidence that that truly works? Oh, about 3,000 years. What evidence is that? How about the 10 Commandments? Are those absolutes? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not, and there's 9 more. Right? They're absolutes. So not only do you have your core belief or beliefs, one is good, right? Nordstrom's believes that you can turn anything back and you'll always get a refund. That's Nordstrom's. People have turned in tires and they don't even sell tires and they don't even know how much money to give back. But they get the money and then they buy stuff at Nordstrom's, right? So they're recycling. They believe in that. It's called the Nordstrom way. Burger King believed in the early days to have it your way. And they even had a song around it. That was their mission. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders don't upset us. And then I forget how it goes. Have it your way. That was in the 1980s. And that was against McDonald's. So McDonald's does it one way. That's their thing, right? That's what the McDonald's brothers did. 2 pickles, lettuce, a certain way. There's no having it your way. You just have to take the bun off and take the shit off yourself, right? That's the way you do it at McDonald's. But at Burger King, you could tell them. Same with In-N-Out Burger here, right? So they believe in something different than McDonald's. Are you getting this? And what are the steps? What are the steps? Well, that was the key number 2. You got to have concrete steps like the 10 Commandments. And then the absolutes, if these are absolutes where people are crystal clear what you don't believe in, what you believe in, and what you're against. I like to move against the against first. Thou shalt not, right? I will never put a coach, I will never put a client before a coach. Even if the coach is wrong, even if I have to fire the coach, in that incident, I will never put the client before the coach. The coach always wins. So because you have that level of authority with me, then I expect something in return, right? What is that? That means don't worry that Alex is busy. Alex is busy, super busy, probably more busy than you, but that doesn't give you a right not to reach out to me and then cause a bigger problem for me later on. That's not cool. And that's why I get upset. Because we could have handled it if you just didn't read my mind. And you're right, I'm busy, but you didn't reach out. Have I made that point yet, by the way? I'm seeding here forcefully with absolutes. Is it working? Okay. That's why you're here. It's an insult if you don't reach out. Because I feel like you don't get my belief. Well, now you know it. And let's just say it's my fault because I hadn't expressed it. I thought I've demonstrated it pretty damn well, right? But this is how I'm changing, where I'm going to be more forceful with my point. And hopefully no one feels that their character's getting assassinated, because I'm not attacking anyone in particular. I'm just thinking of things that have happened, and I'm telling you why, whether or not you were involved, right? None of it's fiction, but I'm telling you why it's upsetting to me. And this framework, these keys are a really good tool to articulate that, right? Now, here's the key point. Absolutes are binary. What does that mean? Well, they're either a yes or a no. I either know it to be true, 1, or know it not to be true. That's a 0, 1, 0. That's binary, right? Yes or no. So they're binary from a choice. They're not ambiguous. You don't have like these multiple choices that are possible. Thou shalt, there's no, if you don't kill, because that's an absolute, then that means you don't go to war. And people have believed in that, right? It's like, no, I'm not going to war because I'm here not to kill people. But war is keeping your sovereign nation sovereign. I know, and I'll thank people in the service, but I can't kill. It's beyond my belief. Now, that's a huge thing. Let's take another really big subject here in the U.S., abortion. Okay, is there life at conception or not? Does it have to go 9 months or 6 months before it looks like a person? Now, I'm not going to give you my belief on that because it's beyond the scope of this, but abortion is a really good example because it's binary, okay? It's either killing an infant in the belly or it's a mother having the choice. And she didn't, that didn't come other than, the story of Jesus that required a man, right? So she gets to choose. Now, I know women who say absolutely. I know women who say no way. I can't, let's see. Something just happened. My internet went down. Updates could not be installed. Logitech. Okay, cancel. Cancel. Okay. My camera is doing an install while I'm doing this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm in this 1 hour. I don't have any more time to do this again. Right? Oh, that's not a misguided intention. That would have been a disaster, right? Because I'm thinking, what if I lose this recording? Okay, so when I say binary, you're getting to see me in real time. Binary means it's a yes or a no. So the abortion concept, is binary. There are people that go into abortion centers and kill people because they want to get rid of those people. They call it pro-choice. Pro-life. And then there's pro-choice. So they're constantly opposing each other. Now, you may have such a firm belief here, you would say, well, of course I'm this, or of course I'm that. I'm not going to give you my of course, because I don't want to have you have a bias on me. And I'm not going to even give you a clue of what it is. But what I know is that is an absolute step-by-step belief, right? That is binary. People are either one or the other. Same goes with war. Same goes with the environment. That's why there's so many problems, because there's one group with a bunch of beliefs and there's another group with another. Like, think about the religious wars. History was written by the winners of religious wars. Do you know that? History is fictional. If you have one group that's conquered another group, let's say the Romans, right? Well, now you have history from the Romans' point of view. Do you think the person, the nation that got conquered is going to write that same history? I don't think so. So that's what we're reading. That's what I believe, right? So I look at history as fictional, and it was influenced by those who had the most authority, usually people who won wars, and go back through all the empires, from the Greeks, the Romans, Egyptians, blah, blah, blah. The slaves didn't write history, right? If the ancient Egyptians had slaves, they're not the ones who wrote the history on hieroglyphics, right? In some cases, slaves were actually royalty and got to be with Pharaoh. And in that case, they wrote history, but that's one, not the hundreds of thousands of others, right? So think about history. What do you believe about history? But it's got to be binary. Either history is true or history is fictional. And it's one person's or one nation's or one civilization's truth as a result of winning. And I think there's a bias there, right? So that's what I mean by binary. When you get into these absolutes, make sure that it's a yes or a no, and you know exactly where you stand, like controversial issues. And the only reason they're controversial is because they're binary. There's no gray area. Pro-life, pro-choice is binary, one or the other. There is no in between. You could not have an opinion, but then you're not even in that conversation. You understand? Here's another one, because in my lifetime, I've never seen so much confusion over gender, right? I'm not talking about transgender or someone thinking in their heart they're a woman and they were a man and then they become a woman, like Bruce Jenner, an Olympian, now a woman, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there's 54 genders. Like I identify with a flower, So that's my gender. And they're teaching this to kids in school, right? So I'm glad my kids are out of school, but there's no 52 genders for me. There's 2, right? And there's some confusion on others, right? But there's really 2. And all you got to do is look at the person naked and you know which one it is. It says male or female, right? Now, can you imagine on a form, on an order form, to put other? That's what I'm seeing. Other. Well, I don't believe that, and I don't care if someone threatens me. I'm not going to put an other category. I had a client, you know who this is, they didn't want to put male or female in the intake. I said, why not? Because this conversation, I said, dude, and it's a woman. I called her dude because I can call her that. I said, dude, okay, let's not look at this unisex bathroom thing. Let's not have any confusion about that. You need to know how many women versus how many men are checking off this thing, because you can't tell by their name. If it says Kelly, it could be a man or a woman. If it's Marion, it could be a man or a woman. One of the smartest people I know, his name is Marion. He works for Eric Lingenfelder, and Eric was my original webmaster. And I think Marion's still with him. I wouldn't know that was a man, right? And so Sandy can be a man or a woman. So you want to know male or female. She didn't want to put gender, so we ended up not putting gender. So how many men versus how many women answered? She doesn't know. Crazy, crazy. But I'm telling you, my belief collided with hers. So that's called binary, okay? For me, you're a man or woman, guy or girl, right? Yeah, you can go into the bathroom and it has both sexes, but I'm not identifying with a flower or a bee or something else, which is just crazy. Just look up if you haven't been keeping up to date. I have to protect my children from this kind of thinking. I don't know where it came from. Someone's in charge of that. So I happen to believe in that. What do you believe in? You believe that man, I'm a guy, I'm a gal, that should be on an intake form? Well, if you don't believe in that, then you won't know if you're attracting more women than men. I attract more women. Look at our coaches. I attract more women to my world than men. Why? Probably because of the way I teach. Probably. But I didn't intend to do that. I don't like secretly seduce them and saying, hey, come on, I want more women than men. Okay? But they hear something if there's a gender preference, and they come. Look at the number, look at the difference between women and men in the coaching group. Right? Look at, I mean, there's always been like this equal opportunity thing since I've been alive, but I'm more than I'm unequal opportunity. I have more women in as students, as coaches, as independent contractors working with the company, right, than I do men. Because I don't look at gender as any kind of a preference. And the type of people I'm attracting, they just happen to be women. And I don't even notice it until I think about it. So it's important, if I know that the women can do the job better than men, and if you're a guy, sorry, but I believe a woman can sell better than a man if I teach him the way to do it. I've taught Sandra that way, and she already came with skills. I can teach any woman to sell the way we do through seeding and storytelling. I believe women can do it better than men. Men are less patient. That's my bias. That's my projection. But it's a lot tougher. And the men that we do attract, look at the men we have. Are they like the macho, male chauvinist type, or are they heart-centered? Are they loving? Do they hug? Look at the people we've attracted, right? I'm proud of that, to have that. And look at the people who this guy, Harv, attracts. So that's our next example. Reasons or results. Some of you had this coaching. I helped them put it together originally. Reasons or results coaching program. Do you remember that? That is binary. What's the most important word? Or. You either have reasons or you get results. There's nothing in between. So that is a very binary absolute, right? So Harv is absolute. Many of you came through Harv. So you're the offspring of his teaching. Those are absolutes. How about a guarantee? Where's an absolute in a guarantee? We're at step 3, right? Still? So third key. How about my guarantee? What's my guarantee for my famous, I couldn't read it from behind, I was looking at the car. What's my famous 100K money back guarantee? So when someone is going to do the 100K, my answer is, I'm glad, I'll give you my money back guarantee. Here it is. You will never see that 100K again. And I've said that again and again and again. And I've never been asked for the 100K back, even when they didn't do the work. And I was really disappointed. But I've never been asked for that money back because they know they're not getting it back, right? In fact, it's in the letter of agreement. It's implied in there, right? So that's an absolute. You'll never see the money again. So you decide whether or not you want to do business with me, but you're not going to do business because of a guarantee, because I can't control the return on investment. Only you can. Only you can do the work. Only you can know if it's actionable and concrete, right? Muhammad Ali, absolute. I am the greatest, right? That's why I took a picture with him in his home. That's him and Alex. And that's the Harvey McKay Roundtable, which I set up with Harvey, right? I was the brain behind that, right? Now, he was the star, but I was the brain. I was the one who said, make it 75K. I was the one who said, give all your books away and tell them they can use the content. That's your legacy, right? And as a result, I got to meet Muhammad Ali. He always said, I'm the greatest before he even was. And he's the only heavyweight fighter to have lost the heavyweight crown, not once, not twice, but 3 times and get it back. Only fighter in history to do that 3 times. It's been done 2 times, but not 3 times. He is the greatest. Was the greatest. I think his spirit still lives. When people said, when they asked him, how many push-ups can you do? He would say, how about 7 or 8? And they'd say, champ, you can only do 7 or 8 push-ups? That you're the greatest. He says, I can do 7 or 8 more after my body tells me you can't do 1 more. It's pretty good, right? You do 7 or 8 more after you don't, there's no way you could do another one. Push-ups, right? Push-ups. He's speaking in absolutes. All right. Number 4, key number 4 is specific questions that tailor nicely around your beliefs, your steps, your absolutes. You got to have questions to start the dialogue. Questions must come from the client's, not the marketer's mind. So when you do FAQs, right? Do you do it from your own point of view? Are you guessing? I cannot believe how sloppy people are with FAQs. Nothing is more important than an FAQ because you're actually working with the client's mind. When I'm writing any sales, I always start with the FAQ because now I'm out of my mind and I'm going into the customer's mind, right? And I don't pretend like I know, so I go and I do research. I go and I talk to people. What's the number 1 reason why you won't buy? And they tell me. I jot it down. Objection, 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 right? And then I create these FAQs that are transformed from objections. So you got to have specific FAQs that are coming from the client's mind. And this is what you're going to have to teach your people to do. I bet you don't do this. I bet you don't spend nearly enough time focusing on the questions. Do you know that your life will be so much easier in business if you have reliable, specific FAQs? Those are frequently asked questions. And then you're going to give the frequently answered, versions of those, right? If all you did is you spent 2 weeks figuring out what the true FAQs are, right? The true questions that are in their mind, right? The little voice. And they're asking themselves questions. If you know what those are, and you got to ask to find out, and you can find it out with some tools online, which I'll show you in a moment, your life will be so much simpler because you now have concrete steps. There may be 9 FAQs, there may be 5, I don't know. But once you have that, then you got the keys to the door. You have the key. I cannot believe how people get really lazy with FAQs. Maybe they just don't know how important it is. They guess. I've never guessed at an FAQ list, ever. When I teach at GBI, those FAQs are the ones that students have told me and my team. Here's the key point. Instant authority is probable when you, I didn't say predictable, but probable when you turn objections into frequently asked questions. Okay? So frequently asked, what's an objection? All right. An objection would be what's happening in their mind. I can't do this because I don't have any product to sell. Right? That's the objection. Here's the converted frequently asked question. Okay? Frequently asked question is, can I do this even if I don't have a product to sell? Here's the answer. Yes. In fact, 87% of all of Alex's students came with no product. In fact, he prefers it because no product, no bad habit. That way you won't feel guilty or shameful for losing all this money if the product ends up not having any potential. And Alex will let you know. So if you're coming in and this is your first product and first offer, congratulations. You're starting with a clean slate. If you do have a product, then get ready for some coaching because it may not be the right one. That's the answer. I know that that's the question. So that's what I'm going to go after. I know from the objection. Okay. I've got 8 more. So start making that a priority. Online tools, Quora.com. Start using it. AnswerThePublic.com. Facebook Lives during the Q&A. And Google search. You can actually write questions into Google search, right? And you'll see the questions, and Google sometimes will give you the steps that other people have said. But if the question is often asked, then Google will tell you. But Quora is my favorite. It's spelled Quora. Answer the Public. After a while, it costs money, but it's an awesome, awesome tool. And then Facebook Lives, that's something that you could do. So that's number 4 key. Number 5 is routines and rituals. Okay, behavior never lies. Humans get remembered through their doings, not through their being. Being is your, being is your belief structure. Being is who you believe you are, right? But it's your doing. I'll get this from my own team. That wasn't my intention to do that. Let's say I just have a ridiculously ugly image for my Facebook Live, right? Now, if Leo, you're watching, this is about you. And you know this because we already went through this. So Leo is very important to me. Leo Fernandez, right? Very important to me. He knows how important he is. And something happens and he says, it wasn't my intention to embarrass you, Alex. I said, I know that. I know you're being, you got my back. But your doing sucks. How could you allow that image to represent me on a Facebook Live when we do this shit every single week? I said it just like that. Right, Leo? Took it. Because I was right. I'm not going to fire him over that, but if that kind of thing continues, then his doings don't have my back. His being does. He'd practically jump off a cliff for me, and I would for him. My limit is maybe 15 feet. After that, I'm going to hurt my ankle. So I'll see if there's another way to do it. I'll skydive. So he says it's not my intention or my purpose. Well, that's your the being part of being human, right? I know that. I know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But what's the doing part? Well, behavior never lies, and your doings will set your legacy. Do you know that? If you have your will and last will and your testament and all your estate planning done, then the wealth will be passed through without the government taking a bunch of tax. What right does a government have? This is my belief. That you've been paying taxes, and they're going to take half of it because you died? Huh? What is that? That's post-tax tax. That's called estate tax, and it's 50% in the U.S. over a certain amount. So I have a client who is an estate planning attorney, and we're calling him a family wealth advisor because he wants to make sure that people do what they need to do before they die, right? Because it's going to happen. So why not plan for it? So the doing part, don't get confused with who you are versus what you do. If Leo has my back great. But don't put an image on Facebook Live where I do every single week and tell me that that's the only image you could put. And it looks like shit. It's a default, that Facebook is doing. But if that's acceptable to you, Leo, then Leo, you're not going to be with us anymore. If that's acceptable. Is that acceptable? No. Now listen to this. Okay. He says to me, and you can talk to him about it. No one's hiding anything. I've already talked to my court team about it, but he means so much to me. I want him to learn, right? So this is not about mocking or making fun, but Leo says, yeah, it's not acceptable to me. And it's not my intention to embarrass you. I said, I know all that. It's not my intention to get upset with you, but I am, right? And he says, I didn't know how to do it. And I said, didn't AJ turn over all those images? Because I talked to AJ, who I let go, and he did a great exit. And he said he would be talking to Leo. Well, he didn't talk to Leo. So I reached out to AJ. I said, AJ, the only threat I have is I will never, ever refer anyone to you. How could you leave without talking to Leo? You told me you had it handled. He said, anytime I reached out, it wasn't convenient, for him to talk because Leo was doing other things. Now, I don't know what the truth is. Frankly, I don't even care. It's between Leo and AJ. Now, they have since talked, but then Leo tells me I didn't want to bother you. That's what he told me. And you know how that makes me feel, right? It's like, you didn't want to bother me on something I do every single week where the public is looking at, where you get more exposure than being on anyone's stage in Brazil. And you didn't want to bother me when we talk almost every day. You don't want to bother me. Is that acceptable? No. I said, well, then be warned. If this continues, you will not continue with us. Is that clear? Yes. Okay. So are you going to reach out when you have a question? Yes. Will you get with AJ? Yes. So then they did what they did. I don't think it's over yet. I think there's still more. But he's crystal clear. I'm clear. And we'll see how things turn out with Leo doing images, because Leo is extremely talented. He can sell. He has IT, background, information technology. So he's very quick at learning stuff, especially programming and stuff with applications like Zoom and Facebook Live and BeLive.tv, etc. And there needs more maturity with knowing the difference between doing and being. Michelle is no different. We've had some issues with renegotiating and agreements and things like that, but she's worked in a corporate environment before. She knows the importance of it. So we have more and more clarity that we get, and Michelle means a lot to me, right? She's very important to me because at one time in the future, my hope is that I don't have to do any more curriculum. I can just give the vision and then she can run with it. And then that's a great skill to have with other people that she can monetize. And she's a fabulous coach. And I don't have experience with her managing, but I know that she's a really, really good coach. And she's managing the other coaches. All right. So with this framework, you can see that in a company that doesn't have these keys, that can be a challenge, especially when it's a virtual company like mine. So understand that your intentions have nothing to do with your behavior. It wasn't my intention to kill your dog. Yeah, I know it wasn't your intention, but you dropped the gun went off, and my dog was there. Okay, that didn't happen. But you see, intention and the actual doing part are not always connected. And so when something goes bad, remember, it's your doing that's being assessed, not your heart or your head. It's not unjust to get fired because you did something stupid. Not unjust at all. Unexpectedly, maybe. But your being and your doing, I hope I've made the point. Look at the doing part. Look at what people are actually doing, not what they're saying. Look what they're doing. And you can get that data from the internet. Who is buying that book? Not who said they're going to buy it. Who is reviewing that book? Not, they said they're going to review it. They get a bonus webinar, but did they review it? No. it was my intention to do it, right? It was my intention to do this training for you. I'm now into it an hour and 20 minutes. So I have to end it soon, right? And every minute that goes by, I have a coaching client in 45 minutes from Germany. I can't miss that. And I'm not fully packed yet. So I made a commitment and I'm living by it, right? It's my doing. I'm actually doing this, right? So it wasn't intention. I didn't get to it. I don't want to come here early in the morning, but that's how important it is to me, the agreement. So when you treat it the same way, then we get along really well. And then we soar together. Now, a routine and a ritual means the actual behavior, the doing. So do you have prime time set in your schedule? Well, we're going to have study time for GBO Biz, and I want to see at least 3 hours a week, and you're going to show it to me on your schedule. I'm not just going to take your word for it. Well, I believe you that you say yes, but I'm going to see it. I want to see your doing part, right? So, and you're going to do that with your coaching clients as well. I haven't done that yet, but I thought, why not? Because I've showed my calendar to other people, and they see it. So we're all going to do it. I don't know what calendar system you use. My preference is going to be Google Calendar. As long as it's shareable, I want to see where you put time aside for studying for GBO business, right? Not just the time for this. Well, this is a replay, but not just to attend live. That's easy. That's easy. I'm talking about your own time. Like, where's the time in your calendar? So we're going to start doing that. If you haven't done it before, you're not in trouble. It doesn't take any points away. But after I say we're doing it, and if you want to continue, then you'll agree to it. And here's the deadline. And it's a 1 week deadline. So you got 1 day of renegotiation, and you can't renegotiate twice. And there's another one, another rule. So that's going to be a doing part of behavior. So routine and ritual is not about being something. It's about doing something. What do you physically do? Well, I have a routine of walking my dog, Minnie, twice a day. I have a routine of waking up at 4:30 in the morning and doing something. I have a routine of having a trainer 3 to 4 days a week, right? Those are doings. Okay, so here's an example. Amway used to have Amway salespeople, and they used to make them sign checks with green, right? So when they endorse their check, when they got from Amway, or they write another check, you have a green pen. So they would send them thin felt tip pens, and anytime they wrote with that pen, they would think of green. Amway, green is the color of money, and they would think of Amway. They would also get their people to reverse back into a stall, right? So I usually go head first into a parking stall. They would teach people to go reverse back so that when you leave, you're going forward. You're not looking in the rearview mirror. And they used it as an analogy. Well, every time you back into a stall, you would think of Amway. Every time you signed in green, you would think of Amway. You see how the ritual makes it so that this belief structure and the steps that they had, the absolutes that they had, right? You see how that all comes into play with Amway. How about a meeting? We have a ritual, always begin with a victory or triumph. Isn't that what we do? That is a ritual, right? That is a physical doing that builds a culture. How about fast foods? Well, in New York, in LA, Los Angeles, where I grew up in Pasadena, which is a suburb, Tommy's Burgers and In-N-Out Burgers, when high schoolers were drunk, which they shouldn't have been, but when they were drunk or they'd been drinking, which they shouldn't have been, and they were driving, right, as well. I don't know if I probably did. I don't remember, but I know that I drank in high school, and after we were old enough to drive, we didn't have Uber. The ritual would be you go to Tommy's Burger, and Tommy's Burger has chili on it, and it's calories galore, or In-N-Out Burger. And In-N-Out, there's always a line, almost 24 hours a day. But after you've done partying or drinking, you go there to suck up the alcohol. And so that's not a very redeeming quality to be proud of, but that's a ritual that kids had, and I think still have, when they go there. Now, with my kids, there's Uber, and now they both drive. So they know if there's a drop of alcohol going in their system, they take the Uber home. They know that. That's an absolute. The car comes away, and I'm paying for the Uber, right? Their mom doesn't have to pay for the Uber. It's my rule. So she doesn't have to take half the bill, right? Because we're divorced. But they take Uber when they've had any alcohol. And I know they're going to drink, so I say, that's okay. Just you don't drive, because you're getting in a 2,000-pound weapon that's rolling, and something very, very priceless is inside that weapon. I'm talking about the car, and that's you. And I don't want to lose you. So our absolute rule with my kids, now both drive, is you take an Uber home, or you call me if you've been drinking and your car is there as well. And they've done it, and I when I see the Uber, I get the Uber receipts from Sandra because she sees them. When I see them, I think back, okay, was there a party or what happened? Or they just tell me, right? And they haven't done it a lot, right? They've done it maybe 2 or 3 times so far. Gabe is older. But I was so proud of them when they did it, and I would just give them so much acknowledgement and appreciation so that they would keep doing it, because I want to shape that behavior and not the opposite. So Tommy's Burgers, my kids, I hope they never go to In-N-Out or Tommy's Burgers because they were drinking. I hope they go there because they want to eat there. But that was the ritual that high schoolers did when I was growing up, at least from my high school. And so after the party, everyone would go to Tommy's. That was the ritual, right? That way, going home, mom and dad wouldn't smell the alcohol on you, or you'd smell like, chili and, hamburger and the ketchup or the French fries, whatever, right? So that was the thing. Now, that was a dangerous ritual to have, but still it was a ritual, right? So there are rituals that are positive and rituals that are not so positive. I would put that in the not positive realm, but I want you to see what a ritual is. That when kids, Tommy's Burgers got business from high schoolers, right? They would get frequented by high schoolers, and word of mouth traveled, and they always had a massive, massive line. And here's the other ritual. There were no seats, so everyone ate standing up. They had these little, these tables that were against the wall. I guess they call it a bench in Australia, but they were like chest high, and people would just go and they'd all stand and they'd eat this burger and all the chilies coming down the side. That's a ritual, man. So Tommy's Burgers became famous, and now they call it Famous Tommy's Burgers in LA. You can look it up on the internet. And in this little hole in the ground little place, they had this parking lot that were lined up with cars, and everyone was standing up and eating their burger. Okay, that's a ritual. What about the UIBC mentors? Well, we had a ritual of 11 declarations. There's some of you who are one of those mentors. And these 11 declarations were supposed to be given daily, delivered daily as a ritual. And so you would read the declaration. And the declarations were, I will never criticize, condemn, or I forgot them, but I have them. They're all listed. They're laminated. And I'd have the coaches declare them. They took less than a minute to say, but once in the morning, once at night. Why? To always remember UIBC, Ultimate Internet Bootcamp coaching. And at one time we had over 700 people paying $500 a month coaching. So it got to be a very big program, and it was very, very profitable while it lasted. But that was a ritual I wanted to put into the culture. And I don't know the coaches that did it or didn't do, but nowadays I would want them to prove it, right? So that's a ritual, just having declarations in the morning, right? I will never criticize, complain, or condemn another coach or another student. That was one of the declarations. And there were 11. They were cool. If you're interested, I can get you that. Now, each of the 5 keys, okay, must be guessed at before known. What does that mean? That means you have to guess at first. Like, okay, what do I believe? You're guessing. Don't get caught up in the perfectionism. Oh my God, do I believe that? No, I think I do. No, I don't. No, that's not a good belief. Is that a good belief? No, don't get caught up in that, right? Get caught up in guessing first. That's called a hypothesis. Scientists guess. Elon Musk is blowing up rockets because he's guessing how to make it work to go to Mars. And he's getting closer and closer. Here's the final point. More authority means status. More status means faster and easier new buyers. If you have lots of authority, then you're going to get buyers to buy without you having to sell very hard. How hard did I sell this course? I didn't, right? I said, here's the price. I need to make about $3,000. Michelle, gather the coaches. Leo, get the coaches together. And if you guys split that, as long as I make $3,000, which is ridiculous, okay, right? Ridiculous. Me getting paid $3,000 to teach this, and we're going to keep going. So I didn't do it for the money, right? But I wanted to get paid. I didn't want to do it for free. So find a way to do it for $3,000, and we did it. I didn't sell it. Why? Because I have the authority. I have the authority with you, which gives me the status, which means I don't have to sell. That is what's so important about these keys. My champion, you stuck with me. I'm about to go on a trip. I know for sure I'm going to be teaching this again and probably be recording it so that version 2 is better. So we'll see what we do. But this is the 6th and final module. And now that we're done with the modules, now it's time to go back and review this one as well and carve out at least 4 hours a week. They can be 1 hour here, 1 hour there, 4 hours a week on 4 different days, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour for GBO business time, right? Start doing that, because that way, after we have an agreement, which we're not doing yet, it'll be a lot easier for you because it'll be a habit, okay? So that's this course. That's this module. This is your life. Your doings will be remembered, not your being, right? So I'm hoping that you will do what you promised you would, and you will see the value of what you're learning here, not just to coach others, but to apply it to your own life. Those 5 keys, or the framework, as Ryan Dice calls it, and I've done it here in my book, you're going to get access to all of those assets while I'm in Australia. Of course, this is not going to be the final version because I'm time dating it. I'm telling you stuff that's dated, right? So this is not going to be the modules. I'm going to have to do this again because if we have more coaches that come through, I'm going to charge a hell of a lot more. You're going to help sell it. You're going to get paid for selling it. And we may just have GBO business certification. So you could be coaching the coaches who are certifying. We may just do that. I don't know. It'll be a heck of a lot easier. Believe me, because then you don't have all these variables of businesses. And if you've gone through something that someone else is going to go through, and then you're going through it again, you're not going to have the issue of them, having more status than you. You have more authority. So I know that you'll protect your confidence because you'll have that attitude. Hey, I already know what's involved. So what if we just had certification for GBO business, and those are the coaching clients you get, right? And we charge a lot of money. I think that's a pretty good idea. I think you could still coach business people, but that's something for you to think about. It just came to me just now, and that's a happy way for me to end. So I'm going to go to Australia. What do I believe? A coach, that means you, comes first before a client. Client is not always right. A coach is always right in front of the client if I'm involved. And then you'll get the private reprimand later if you were wrong, which some of you have been on the receiving end of it. That's what I believe. What do you believe? Well, I want to find out. You can post it on Facebook, but I'm going to take a vacation. So I'll see you soon. And I hope you have happy holidays, whether it's summer or winter where you live. All right. Bye for now.